The straight guy's banging fantasy is hot, and it keeps us all watching. Good job, capitalism. But it also threatens the future of our entire society. That sounds dramatic, because I bet you don't realize just how sneaky Hollywood is at controlling you. Well, let me go ahead and unravel all the ways that TV and film has made you something worse than homophobic. Femphobic. And it's actually supposed to be spelled this way, but it's honestly easier if we keep it this way. This is the definition, which is going to be very important for this video. Simple enough, right? My name is Christopher Valentine, and I talk about things that interest me. And today, it's bad bitches like me, and your internalized hatred of us. Respectfully. I've watched over a dozen TV shows and films, and they have all amounted into the information in this video, which is very important, because everybody matters, right? Or do they? That's what we're going to tackle today, because according to what we see on TV and film, people like me don't even exist. Let's talk about the most recent gay hits, Red, White, and Royal Blue. Or as I like to call it, two straight men fucking. This is your one and only spoiler warning, not just for this film, but for a ton of gay media that I'm going to talk about. So you have until the end of this sentence to click off. I was crazy excited for this film to come out because I read the book and I loved the book. And then I found out that they were producing a film and I was even more excited. And then I saw this.
I love hanging out with this guy. These days are way too lonely. We never have to see each other again. You're expected at my New Year's party. Don't forget the love away, but over yourself, your majesty. It's your royal highness.
The trailer for the film killed all excitement because it was yet another cash grab for the regular heteronormative majority. How did I know that before ever actually seeing the film? Because of something called optics. And we're gonna get into that later, and why it matters so much. But first, let me tell you what went down. In an alternate reality, the main character, Alex, is the first child of the first woman president. Can you tell it's a fantasy yet? Alex ends up falling in love and into a sexual tete-a-tete with his former rival, Prince Henry, one of the royal children in this world. Prince Henry has to struggle with his sexuality in a very heteronormative royal family and pretty much just a straight world. They both grapple with the way that they're going to be seen and the way that they're going to be received, but overall this is like 365 Days Light, a sexual fantasy that is masquerading as a love story. By the end of the film, the two characters end up together, they end up out and proud, and we don't know what happened after that. For all intents and purposes, this movie is fine for fan fluff, except for one very big issue. Neither one of these men are gay. I know, they got me too with all of this going on. Hey, focus. Focus, this is what they want. They want us distracted because they don't want us to actually challenge what this film is saying. Do you really think it's a coincidence that both Alex and Prince Henry look like they're models in the real world? Listen, the fan service worked on me. It worked on all of us. None of us are exempt. But it speaks to a larger problem of our internalized femphobia. This film was designed to be a hit with people just like you and me, but most of all, the majority mainstream audience. It was a calculated move by Amazon Studios and by all of the people who have any ownership in this IP. There's a reason that the story is getting so much push and so much good reception, and a reason that all of us are talking about it. In spite of the fact that you would think upon first glance that a film about a gay romance wouldn't actually reach any substantial amount of an audience. And this is where palatability comes in, oh boy. Haven't you ever noticed that in all the history, very short history, of gay people in cinema, they have always been a very, very specific kind of gay person? A gay person that dresses a certain way, a gay person that is limited to a very specific scope of story and conflict. Gay characters have always had to be palatable to straight audiences and to the straight majority, because it's all about making money, right? Not just that, but on a deeper level, if these characters aren't following very specific gender roles, then there's no way that they ever would have seen the light of day on your screens. This is done for the purpose of profitability. Motherfuckers need to make some money. And you know, speaking of strategy and making money, I also want to note that Alex's actor made a brilliant move here. He's obviously a straight man in real life, and his decision to play this role is very much so a pipeline from gay fantasy, becoming a desirable personality in the media, which he has accomplished, to then getting opportunities based off of this. I can totally see his career trajectory from spicy gay film to heteronormative beauty ideal in 1,000,001 romantic comedies. I mean, that's exactly what he was getting in this story anyway, just playing opposite a man instead of a woman. Brilliant business, but fucked up reality. I also want to point out how funny it is that irony never fails, because Alex really had the nerve to say,
My father was 12, and my brother brought him and his sister over from Mexico. You may not understand this, but in America, if you're an immigrant with a Z in your last name, there's not a lot of people in positions of power that look like you or sound like you.
Meanwhile, he's a white passing, straight passing, desirability ideal. That shit was tone deaf as fuck. And diving deeper into being consumable, into being palatable, it's always a straight presenting and straight passing white man who is the main character, if there ever is one who's gay. And listen, if there's one thing I am, it's fair. Perhaps all of these straight acting gay men in media can present a sort of alternative to the traditional stereotype of an overly flamboyant gay caricature man for people to model themselves after and to grow into. But that might also be by design, because gender roles are a thing. And if there's one thing that the world hates, it's sissy boys. Like a certain someone on your screen right now. The problem with that is that even if it provides an alternative for people, it's going to be taken up as the majority. Because it's a mode of behavior that falls under what is considered normal in the real world. The result of all of this is the erasure of people who exist right now. People like me. This film used desirability as their crutch to gain an audience and therefore money. Much like lesbians are subjected to the male gaze and male fantasies, so too are men to fems and the female and gay fantasies. Now, I really want to get granular about what desirability actually is, because people always conflate desirability with attraction, and those are not the same thing. Attraction is a little more simple and straightforward than desirability, which is very nuanced. I mean, I can be attracted to 1,000,000 people, but that doesn't mean that I'm going to desire partnering them. Desirability turns the person who is attractive into a commodity, into something to ascertain. And for what? Social cachet. The difference between attraction and desirability is that desirability begets action. It begets me pursuing you. But I'm pursuing you for a myriad of reasons that isn't just that I'm attracted to you, because none of us do that. We all seek to partner and be with specific kind of people for specific kind of reasons. And unless you're a very evolved person, that is in some way, shape, or form going to be affected by the socioeconomic and political landscape. How are people going to view me with this person? How are people going to view me pursuing this person in the first place? Out in public with this person, loving this person, kissing this person, partnering this person long term, creating a family. All of those things interplay with why you may or may not be pursued by someone. And I'm obviously speaking to the femmes here, because we both know that, as the poet just says, we are, darling, we're not desirable. Desirability is a pyramid, and you're either at the top or the bottom. And if you're at the bottom, it's not that you're not desirable because you're not attractive, it's that you're not desirable because you don't provide enough social cachet. People hate femininity on a physiological male figure because they were taught that the gender of man does not coincide with that. But guess what? I consider myself a man, and I definitely have a physiological male figure, and don't know if you noticed, I fucking exist. And I'm not going anywhere. None of us are. I am not Google, so I'm only gonna do this shit once, because I need y'all to get it. Gender is not real, okay? We created male and female as labels to connect. Male is a human born with a penis, and female is a human born with a vagina. Gender roles come from the construct of gender. What is a construct? It just means we made this shit up, okay? And we all decided to abide by these rules. Gender, man and woman, is not male and female. Gender is dictated by a set of behaviors that we decided makes it valid or not. Men, aggressive, in control, powerful, wear dark colors, are attracted to females. Furthermore, women, make the money, have the control. Woman, demure, passive, births children, stays home, doesn't make money, dresses in form-fitting clothing, accentuates her body, makes herself sexually desirable. Hello? I'm attracted to men, but what does that mean? Man is an identity with a construct of gender roles surrounding it. So, what exactly is it I'm attracted to? The body parts? The presentation? Both? Neither? What's to say I couldn't just be with a stud? I mean, I'm attracted to masculinity, right? So why exactly couldn't I be attracted to a woman who is masculine? How can desire be quantified or analyzed when it's supposed to be intrinsic? The only reason that I couldn't be attracted to a stud is because the physiological body of a woman negates the gender role of man. And doesn't that prove my point of being indoctrinated and subconsciously dictated to by gender roles? These are concepts that we really should be challenging, and things that we should really be thinking about if we want to build this beautiful genderless future that we keep talking about. I think you should have gotten by now how these gender roles dictate who has power in society, because this is a patriarchy. One of them very clearly gets to have obvious control. Remember that talk about desirability, attraction and desire versus desirability? You can want what you want, but you're gonna go after what other people will accept that you want. So then, looking at red, white, and royal blue, we can see that both of these men are prototypically desirable. Again, they act in a traditionally masculine way, and if they weren't kissing each other in this film, they'd just be two other straight guys who are really hot, who 1,000,001 women would be chasing after. This was done on purpose. The two actors that were chosen to play this role were desirable by design, because it's going to get eyes on them. Especially if they're making out. You know, this whole idea of desirability can even be observed in gay porn. Because the most popular gay porn is just a bunch of men performing hypermasculinity. This is where the whole idea of preferences has to come in. Because people love to say that they just so happen to have a preference for light-skinned, exotic-looking individuals who follow all of the gender norms and heteronormative ideals. Who you partner says a lot about you. Because every decision that we make is political, whether we want it to be or not. And the reason that it is that way is because the world is political, whether we want it to be or not. And that applies in your sex life. We're influenced by all of this different information coming at us since before we were even born. Our parents made us political before we were born, by naming us, by assigning our gender to us, by dictating the way that we would express ourselves as kids. Don't talk with your hands. Real men don't do that. Don't put nails on. Why do you wear makeup? Why do you dress that way? People are not objects. We're more than just flesh and blood and the things we put on our bodies. And so when you say you have a preference for certain kind of people, it's not the same as saying that you have a preference for a certain kind of meal. It's completely stripping the humanity away from a whole subset of human beings. And it applies when you say you prefer people with straight hair versus curly hair, light-skinned people to dark-skinned people, or people who have a certain body type over another, or even perhaps people who present their gender in a certain way. This is the reality that we all have to contend with, but it's also the reality that we need to critique. Because if you really do believe that you're a good person, then you need to recognize the fact that this world isn't good to all of us, honey. I guess we're just never gonna get a fully femme perspective.
Mayday. X marks the spot. We have found what we're looking for. We found it. We found what we're looking for.
Really?
Here it is.
No way.
Representation.
Oh my gosh. Okay, the person that I should really have up here is Miss Benny, who played Marco, the main character in Glamorous. But the reason that I am talking about this person is because they are the first time in my entire life that I have ever felt like I connected to a character who seemed similar to me. I really want to dive into this show because I want to prove to you that even in a show that is making so many strides in representation, there are still trickling little side effects from the past way of thinking that we have to appeal to heteronormativity. Basically, we follow Marco, a mid-20-something-year-old gay man who is femme and who is trying to find his way in the world. He somehow manages to come across a beauty brand owner who is played by Kim Cattrall, and he starts working for them because she really likes him. Throughout this journey journey, he starts dating someone who started off as a situationship. It's an on again, off again thing, you know, the works. And he also has a work fling and a work rivalry. He ends up building a name for himself in the company while they try to save the company. At the end of the season, they actually do save the company, and a lot of it is because of Marco's help. But ultimately, Marco also finds himself as a young adult in a very crazy New York West. Suddenly, with no context, build-up, or storytelling, Marco is revealed to be a trans woman. Why couldn't y'all just show us the story of Marco grappling with their identity so that by the time we got there, we could actually understand and be truly supportive? Because that's not the story y'all wanted to tell. Because y'all wanted to make some money. And it obviously worked. Glamorous was groundbreaking because it had a femboy main character with queer supporting characters who were shown with depth and complexity. And so therefore, all of the different stories that evolved out of the plot were tropes that we have never seen before. A femme coming of age, femme and queer joy, a lack of othering, kind of, and a femme having romance. This shit is iconic, whether you want it to be or not. Glamorous proves that desirability is reserved for heteronormative gender ideals. Even in the unique case of Glamorous, where the main character is femme presenting, the love interest, actually multiple love interests, are not. Feminine attributes on a physiologically male figure are the ultimate sin, because gender roles are the crowning function of patriarchy, which is now inextricably linked to capitalism. We were talking about how red, white, and royal blue is all about making money, but so is Glamorous. I mean, it made it to the top 10, which is huge for feminine presenting people, but it doesn't exist in a vacuum. That show was still made to make money, which is why so many of the choices were made in terms of the optics of the show, like making the romantic interest desirable in a traditional masculine way. If the world wasn't gendered, how much harder would it be for corporations to make money? Capitalism doesn't want to adapt to progressive values. They'll put on a veneer, they'll pretend like they are, but deep down, they're the same patriarchal structures. Trying to adapt to progressive values and to the existence of individuals who have been silenced for all of eternity f***s with the business strategy of people at the top. And by continuing to place all of the straight-passing men in very important roles surrounding one femme, the narrative is clear. We still don't matter. Don't you just hate it when those sissy f***s want to be taken seriously? Ugh. Please. When femme gay men exist in cinema, they're always funny. They're the entertainment. They're a clown. If not, they're a best friend or the support system, a very gay mother, but they're never actually important. And above all, they are palatable because they never present as feminine as they behave, now do they? And why does all this matter about presentation? Because optics matter. That's what I'm trying to get across to you. It's not just the things that are said, it's also the things that are shown. How many times is the word gay said out loud? And why? Or the word straight? What colors are the gay people wearing? What do they look like? How old are they? Where are they positioned in the frame? In a scene? How are they described by others in the story, in the narrative? How do they describe themselves? Where do they live? What do they drive? How conservative are they? How liberal are they? All of these things matter because it's dictating a narrative to you, and the narrative is reflected in the real world. And we need this world to change because it's not working for all of us. Having to be palatable, having to be consumable for the patriarchal majority has colored my entire life. It has literally shaped my entire path on earth. Specifically the opportunities that were offered up to me and not. My limitations, my capability, my ownership, all of that was dictated by the way that people view the way that I present myself. And it's a f***ing crock of shit. Ultimately, aside from dictating reality, the optics also dictate just how much money that white man at the top is going to make, or not. This is why, even in a world like Glamorous, there's limitations to just how far the progressivism is taken, with specific care taken to how the gender norms are being carried out and presented in this story. I mean, even comedians have made the gay joke a literal trope in the comedic space.
Also, every girl I date has like a whole batch of gay friends, right? But there's always one gay friend that I don't think is fucking gay at all.
One thing you may not know about Atlanta, it is the black gay capital.
And because sometimes I want to be open-minded, but I think to myself, how do I know that I'm not a little bit gay?
It's a gay joke.
They're always using a section of their set to virtue signal that they're not homophobic and they're worth supporting. So, again, it really just comes down to being about them. It's a selfish act. And why? So that we will give them our attention, and we'll give them our support. We'll give them our money. Let's play a game. We'll call this the progression litmus test. How far has cinema actually progressed? Because if fems still don't exist, then we are far behind where we need to be. And that's not even to mention non-binary people, people who are intersex, and of course transgender people. But I digress. Let's start backwards, from story to visuals. How many of these stories were fictional? I'm gonna get rid of reality TV right now because that's a little bit more nuanced. Then beyond that, how many of these stories didn't have the sexuality of the gay main character as a crux of the conflict of the story? Whether it be the conflict of self-acceptance or world acceptance, family rejection, complex romance, self-hatred, bigotry. If none of these stories were led by these conflicts or plot points, then they were at least underscored in some way, shape, or form, or in some sort of episode. But it's always a part of the narrative of a gay character, as you can pretty much see here. Beyond this, how many of these stories had a femme-presenting main character? Obviously only one. And how many of the other characters were femme-presenting? Literally, only one. Girl, I didn't even talk about race. How many of these people were darker than a brown paper bag? It's pretty dismal out here. Optics matter because optics dictate representation. And representation matters because it removes limitations in the real world for people by validating people and stories we may not want to see as real. Think about the world's social climate before and after Orange is the New Black. That show literally smashed through the transgender glass ceiling. Laverne Cox is a motherfucking legend. Thanks to her, we actually have conversations that include transgender people, not just as transsexuals, or whatever they were called before, as monsters, the way that gay people and queer people have been seen for all of eternity up until a very short few years ago. And I shouldn't even say be seen, because we are still seen that way, honey. Look at the number of queer people that have hate crimes committed against them every year. The number is climbing, it's not going down, and those are the kind of data points that we need to point to when we're talking about change. And let us not forget that the overarching power here is money. It's capitalism. The media is presenting as progressive because they want to get as many people on board with putting money in their pockets as possible. And front-facing as progressive when the substance of what you're actually putting out there is traditionalist and reductive is a perfect strategy in getting that money. In the end, gay people of all kinds, let alone femmes, are still being used as accessories to people. Remember how I said that representation validates people? You know, what you see on screen creates reality? Life imitates art? Did you put the pieces together just there, or do I have to write it back for you? We need more, and we need better, and we need deeper, and we need more complex. Where are the stories about complex anti-heroes who are on action thriller quests for special organizations as special agents somewhere, where they happen to be not just gay, but femme? Hello, angels.
Madison Lee. Why?
Why be an angel when I can play God? It's like one of the three amigos has gone adios. How tough and independent you are, and you couldn't even make it one day on your own, could you?
Someone reminded me that every angel is unique. And I knew it was you.
Who else has contacts in Mongolia?
Could hack the Halo failsafe and hire a surfer as an assassin.
The same astrological phenom who would refer to a motocross rider with a lion on his helmet as Leo.
Very well done. Very impressive, really. You've got it all figured out. And now I'm gonna really enjoy knocking those halos right off your hands.
But you're an angel.
No, you just don't get it. I don't take orders from a speaker box anymore. I work for myself.
Well, your boss sucks.
But back then, it was a little bit different. You see, when I was an angel, you used guns. Sorry, Charlie. Notice how I said they happen to be femme. They happen to be gay because the center of the story shouldn't be their sexuality. If sexuality is always the center of a gay character's story, then we're not actually progressing past viewing them as more than just their sexuality. This is the level of depth and complexity and nuance that we need for the world to progress. Queer digestibility is so fucking old. We don't need to be likable, we don't need to be bright, bubbly, and shiny, and we also don't need to be in support of everything fabulous and wonderful. We can be just as dark, complex, and full of depth as the rest of you motherfuckers. The femphobia that's showing up in all of these works is giving license to people to continue to discriminate myself and others like me. And that shit is unacceptable. Girl, if you got this far, like the video, and please, this is my life's work. This video is literally the most important thing that I've ever gotten to express, and I put my heart and soul into it. So please share this video. Make sure to leave a comment if you have any sort of thought. This is absolutely what I would consider my magnus opus. And I know that that's shooting myself in the foot in a way because this is so early on in my YouTube video career, but that's how much it means to me. And I hope you've learned a couple things. Thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and don't cosplay as a straight man if you don't want to. Bye!